People ask Reddit. Lawyers of Reddit, what is the most ducked up case that you have fought or seen? Dependency case where a single father dipped his toddler in boiling water because he was crying about some silly toddler thing. Kid was severely burned over his whole body. They were trying to reunify them. The guy in this case claimed he was making dinner, so there was water boiling already and it happened in the heat of the moment. I thought that was BS. The pot was way larger than necessary to make a small meal, plus, this guy was not the sort to prepare home-cooked spaghetti. He was more of a slap some peanut butter on stale bread if he remembers to feed his son type of guy. It's chilling to think how he likely sat there for 20 minutes waiting for this water to boil. Representative painter getting sued on a construction defect job. The painter was hired to paint building 2 and 3. He showed up for work, performed the work, and on his way home got into a terrible car accident leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. He was sued several years later for water intrusion defects related to buildings 7 to 9, which he didn't work on. Felt terrible for the guy. Client insisted on suing an employee who failed to show up to work, which caused a contract to be cancelled. The employee didn't show up to work because he died. In a pro bono program, I was assigned to handle the request of an inmate to be released after serving 2/3 of his sentence. When I read his file, I discovered that he was convicted for kidnapping a woman, tying her to the right front wheel of his Jeep and torturing her to death with some sort of homemade flamethrower. When I went to see the guy, he denied everything, and told me he was appealing the verdict, which legally was not possible anymore. It was really weird sitting in a room with this guy, knowing what he was convicted of, and knowing that he'd been denying the conviction for almost 20 years. Edit, people have been asking questions about the sentence he got. He got life in prison, which makes you eligible for early release after 10 years, first offense, or 14 years, récidive, in Belgium. The death penalty was abolished in 1996. A sociopath in a psych ward making suicide pacts with vulnerable people and never following through. Charged with murder, determined he was too out of his mind to be accountable. Gonna be in an asylum for the next 2 decades unless something major changes within the case. My uncle lawyer helped a relative with a traffic ticket. Relative was conspiracy nut and wanted to take it to court to reveal the lies. Uncle just paid the fine and told her she won. Guy made a porno starring himself and his own 8-year-old daughter. Confessed everything in a Mirandized interview. Screamed at me because the best deal I could get him was out by his 70s. I hope he dies before his release date. Worse I've heard was a divorce case where both parties fought to not have the kids stay with them. It's so depressive to think about the children in that case. My first trial case was about a 26-year-old who was arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia, but after spending 2 weeks in jail they rushed her to the hospital where she died. Turns out she had a heart valve infection and told them about it day 1, but they wrote her off as a druggie and that she was just faking her symptoms. She had 2 kids. And we lost the case because the defense made the entire case about her drug use and argued that she did it to herself. I'm here to provide comedic relief. My buddy is an attorney and was working on a case against some company that was dumping pollution in a large, local body of water that had a direct opening to the ocean. He gets a letter from an incredibly concerned local dude. He wrote this long-ass letter begging my buddy's team to do all they can to win the case against the polluting company for the sake of the mermaids that were living in that local body of water. He had seen them often, guys. He had been trying to befriend them for quite a while now and was concerned for their well-being and for the possibility that they would move out to the ocean to find a cleaner home if the company kept dumping pollution into their area. I wish I could find that pic of part of the letter. In case you are as concerned as he was, fear not. My buddy's team won the case and that company is no longer dumping their waste in that body of water. Not a lawyer, but was on jury duty once and the defendant was accused of breaking into an old lady's mobile home, raping her for several days, then tying her up and putting her in the trunk of her own car on the driveway in 110 degrees heat to kill her. She survived over a day in the trunk when someone found her. Case told to me by another lawyer on one of my cases, 2 guys decided to give a marijuana-laced brownie to their coworker without telling him it marijuana in it. Right before he started his shift. As a crane operator. It went predictably badly, resulted in an accident and even their union agreed the guys should be fired. Not my case, but I was at the Frank Crowley Courthouse in Dallas for work and had free time to watch some of the trial against Chris Dunch, aka Dr. Death. I watched 2 of his victims come into court in wheelchairs, and a nurse testify about how he severed this patient's spinal cord and basically walked out like he didn't care. The victims in wheelchairs were supposed to undergo an hour-long procedure, go home for recovery, but instead woke up in the hospital paralyzed. Really ducked up case, and a tragedy that he was allowed to keep bouncing around to different hospitals without repercussions. Anyways, I haven't seen the mini-series yet, but my friend has, and she was like, I'm sure they dramatized it, you know, Hollywood. I honestly don't think you can dramatize that, at least based on the testimony I saw. A woman was alone with her baby after her husband got deployed. This was not long after the baby was born. Then the baby passed away, and the body had some strange bruising. The mother insisted the baby crawled out of her sight and fell down the stairs. The case ultimately got reassigned from our office, and the mother was pissed. She told the primary lawyer on the case that she had indeed killed the baby. She basically bragged about it, and she had zero remorse at all. Seeing the infant's autopsy photos was absolutely horrific. Not my case, but I was sat in chambers waiting to be heard when it came before the judge. A reasonably successful businessman had died, leaving a will in which he left all his business assets to his wife, on the condition that she destroy everything. Inventory, parts, records, office equipment, all of it. If she refused, everything was to be given to the Hemlock Society, an organization in the States somewhere that advocates for the assisted suicide. Shortly after making the will, he committed suicide, having arranged for his death to be video recorded and the recording to be emailed to his wife and kids automatically. The lawyer didn't say what the method of suicide was, but did say that it was traumatic for all who received the video, unsurprisingly. The lawyer sought, and received, a consent order to amend the will to delete the destruction condition. He had the agreement of the Hemlock Society, which wanted nothing to do with the donation. Understand those conditions. The plaintiff pulled the drawers out of a dresser and climbed up them to look for hemorrhoids in the mirror. Dresser fell on them and they sued the manufacturer. We represented a family who tried to ruin a teenage boy's life. They fabricated police reports, falsely claimed he stole expensive electronics from them, and took their claims to the very uninterested school the boy attended. When cops tried to investigate, the family evaded the investigator and lied to him. Why do all this? The family's son was crushing on a girl they were hosting in their home. She chose to date the boy in question over the son. All 3 kids were classmates. The boy got a hefty settlement from the family. This case was outside our typical areas of practice, but they came from a friend of the attorney. My friend was a defense attorney and worked on a cannibalism case. The guy was found guilty of the charge. Upon looking into the case, my friend saw that the defendant had 2 brothers. Turns out, one brother was also arrested on charges of cannibalism in a different state. The other brother was an accountant. He paid for the attorney fees and wanted absolutely no communication regarding the situation. I wonder how that 3rd brother is doing. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.